Hello guys, welcome to this video. In this video I will be teaching you guys how to use Excel, okay, otherwise known as Microsoft Excel. So what is Excel? Excel is a program developed by the company Microsoft. So Excel is part of the Microsoft Office. So Excel can be used to organize data and management, can be used for financial calculations, can be used for data visualization, okay, like projecting charts, graph creation, pivot tables. Can also be used for project tracking and scheduling. So Excel can be used for anything you want, mostly used to organize data. Okay, so if you don't have Excel installed, go ahead and install it, or if you have it installed, you can simply go to your Windows and search for Excel. Okay, so when you search for Excel, I'll just close this, search for Excel and open a blank workbook. So there's a blank workbook. I'll just open a blank workbook. Okay, so when you get into Excel, depending on the version, this is 2021. When you get into Excel, you would see different sections of the Excel program. Okay, so this uppermost section here, it's known as a quick access toolbar. Okay, we have the save, we have the name of the workbook, we have the search, we have the minimize, we have the restore, and we have the close. Then over here we have the ribbon. In the ribbon we have so many tabs. Okay, we have so many tabs. So we have the home tab, we have the insert tab, we have the page layout, formula, data, review, view, help. Occasionally some other tabs would appear here when you work in the cell area, okay, or when you work in the worksheet area here. Okay, so after the ribbon tab we have another tab known as the formula bar. Okay, another section, sorry, known as the formula bar. So here is where formulas are going to appear when we go into how to use formulas. So over here we have the worksheet area. We have the worksheet area. So the worksheet area is where most of the data is being input, most of the calculations take place, most where the data is being visualized. Okay, so we also have the status bar, which is the bottom here. We can change the view to different view. We can change the zoom in, zoom out. I'll just leave it at 100, and we can see other data here. Before that we have another area known as the sheet area. Okay, so the sheet area is how to display different sheets. Okay, so over here is known as the sheet, okay, in Excel. So if I want to have multiple sheets for multiple purposes, so take example, I want to create a sheet for year 1 data. I can just simply change the sheet here to year 1. So how do you change the sheet? You simply left click, double left click, and you type maybe year 1, and you put the entire year 1 data. So to add another sheet here, you click on this plus button and you add year 2. Okay, so I want to add a third year. Click on this button here, I left click, double click, and you have year 3. Okay, so we have 3 different years to display 3 different data. Okay, we have 3 different sheets to display 3 different data. Okay, so if it's not necessary, there's no need to add more sheets. So to delete a sheet, you simply left click, or sorry, right click and delete. I'll do the same here and delete. So I can just change the name here to maybe something like a sample work sheet. Okay, so that's it. So how do we add a data? Before then, you'll be able to see there are so many boxes here. What are these boxes called? These boxes are known as cells. Okay, these boxes are known as cells. So a cell is just one of these boxes here, and a column is the vertical part of the Excel sheet, and a row is the horizontal part of the Excel sheet. So if you look at this, the columns and the rows have names. So if you see, this is A, B, column C, column D, column E, column F, column G, column H. and the rows have names too: row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, row 5, row 6, row 7, and row 8. So how do we add a data in Excel? We can simply add a data by clicking into one of the cells, and I can just add something like sample. Okay, I have successfully added a data in Excel. How do we delete the data? We can come and click on the cell and simply press backspace, or in a case where we want to delete a couple of things like some words or some letters out, we can simply click on the cell and click some words out. And in this case, I don't want to leave it like that. I want to leave it as sample. So that's how to add and delete data in Excel. Okay, so we'll be going into numbers, we'll be going into other things later. So how also do we save in Excel? If I were to close this Excel file now, all our data, this data I've input here, is going to be completely gone. So how do we save in Excel? We save by going to File. So you go to just beside Home, you see File, and we click on Save As, and we click on Browse, and we choose where within our computer we want to save this file. In this case, I want to save it as document, and I'll just leave this. I can just leave this. I'll change it, or let me just leave it as it is. So this is book 1 by the default name. I'll just save it. So we have our workbook saved to our desktop. So if we were to close this file now and open this, how do we open this? We can simply right click and click on open, or we can just double click it by using the left click, double click, and we have our file retained here even though we have closed the file. So in consequence, as we move and add data, instead of going back here to always use save as, we can simply use a shortcut known as Ctrl Z. So Ctrl S, Ctrl plus S. Look for Ctrl and S on your keyboard. Okay, so that's how to use a shortcut for saving. Or you can simply come to the quick access bar here and click on this disk. Okay, click on this floppy disk, and you have successfully saved your file. So it's important to save your file as you add more data to your worksheet or to your workbook. Okay, as you add more data to your worksheet or to your workbook, entire workbook, so that in a case where you have maybe a low battery or you have your program not responding, your files are going to be continually retained. Okay, so I will just go over how to make use of the formatting in Excel over here by going into the font tab. So if you notice, we can make this text, we can increase the font size or the text size in Excel. How do we do that? You go to font, go to home, and we go to font, and let's say I want to make it 20. Okay, I have successfully made it what, 20 pixels in the font. Okay, 20 pixels. We can also change the color. How do we change the color? We come to font, also home, font, and we come here where we have this arrow. We explore the entire colors that are here. So in this case, I just want to use red. I use red. We can also make it bold. Okay, that's to make it bold, to increase the text weight. So how do we make it bold? We come to this font also section, I will click on B. So we have successfully made it what, bold. We have successfully made it bold. So if you notice also, we have the text here coming out of the cell, which we do not want. So it's coming out of the B cell, B4 cell. So we can increase the cell size by two different methods. We can increase it by coming to the line between B column and the C column and just double clicking left click. Okay, or that's the first method. I'll use Ctrl Z and take it back to how it was. And we can use the second method by coming here, the same line between the B column and the C column, and left click and drag it. Okay, left click, hold and drag it. So whichever one works, whichever one you're comfortable using, that's how to expand the columns, okay, in Excel. We can do that for the row also. We come here and we have successfully expanded the row, so we left click and drag it to the size we want to use. Okay, so guys, that's how to expand a cell, a column or a row in Excel. So remember, columns are horizontal, rows are vertical. Let me just indicate that here. So I would say columns, okay, sorry, columns are vertical, rows are horizontal. Okay, so columns are vertical, rows are horizontal. So I'll give it a better size here. So columns are vertical, these are columns, rows are horizontal, these are rows. And I made mention that the rows have, the cells have names. Okay, so the cells have names. So if we were to come here, any cell you're over here, you can see the name. How is the name gotten? The name is gotten by first identifying the column and identifying the row number. So you can see here we have C4. What is the column? The column is column C. And what is the row? The row is 4. So we have C4. Okay, matching C4, column C and row 4. So if we come here also, we have E6. Okay, how is it E6? The column is E and the row is 6. So E6. Okay, so I'll just go ahead and add some numbers. We'll just be doing a little calculations here in Excel. So like I said, Excel is used to add data and maybe visualize data. So I'll just add some numbers. I can say 40, I can say 600, I can say 90, I can say 200, I can say 100, and I can say 40. Okay, so I've just had some numbers here and we'll be doing a little bit of calculation. Okay, but prior before that, we can copy and paste files in Excel. How do we do that? We can simply come to any Excel we want, we copy and we go to any cell we want to paste it and we paste the data. We can also cut. Cut is different from copy. So cut, you're completely removing the data from there and pasting it in another cell. So you can see the difference. 40 was retained here, but 40 was now removed when we use the cut. So that's different between the cut and the copy. Okay, so I'll just go back to the previous state. How do we do that? We can use Ctrl Z. Okay, so if we were to delete something mistakenly and want to return it back, we can use Ctrl Z to bring it back. Okay, so I'll just add here to save. Ctrl Z to undo. So I'll be going into another formula, which it's known as the multiplication. Okay, so the multiplication. So how do we multiply two figures in Excel? So I would say multiplication. So we can go and say equals to. Now the multiplied files do not have to be existing files, or sorry, the multiplied figures do not have to be existing figures in a cell. Okay, we can use two different numbers that are not in any cell. So let's just say I want to use 9 times 2. We can say enter and it gives us what? 18. Okay, it gives us what? 18. Okay, so I'll be going into some basic function in Excel. This is also very similar to the division. We have two different cells here. I can just say 20 divided by 4 gives us what? 5. Okay, you can also do that in the subtraction. We can say 50 minus 5, which will give us what? 45. We can do that in the addition also. We can say 70 plus 3 gives us what? 73. Okay, so we have basic functions in Excel. I will just type some basic functions in Excel. So the first basic function I want to talk about is the sum function. Okay, the sum function. The sum function, it's very similar to the addition formula. Okay, but it's used to sum up multiple figures. So you can see the addition here is just two different figures. So the sum is like a range of cells you can add. So in Excel, you're going to be working with a lot of tables, you're going to be working with a lot of data, and you want to sum a group of cells or a range of cells. So how do we use the sum basic function? We say equals to, and we type sum, and we use an open bracket. Let's say I want to calculate the sum of all the figures here, and we close the bracket and we press enter. Okay, so don't forget to left click and copy the range. Let me just do it again. So we left click, press it down and copy the range. Okay, and we press enter. So we have 1060 as a sum of all the numbers what here. Okay, so the next basic function I want to talk about is a function known as average. So average brings the average between two or more numbers. Okay, two or more numbers in two or more cells. Okay, so I can say equals to average. Don't forget to add equals to, else it's not going to work. So I want to add I want to get the average of, let's say, the first row of this numbers here, 40, 690, and I close it up, and the average is what? 243.3333. Okay, now in a case where you do not want to leave this decimals, okay, you want to remove the decimals, if you come to the home tab here, you go to numbers, there's a way we can remove those decimals. So you can come here, you see an arrow pointing to the right, that's a way to decrease the decimal. You see an arrow pointing to the left, that's a way to what? Increase the decimal. So in this case, we want to remove all the decimals, and we have an average of 243. Okay, so the next function I want to talk about is minimum. Now what minimum does is that it adds it indicates the minimum number in a range of cells. Okay, so to find out the minimum numbers in the range of the cells, we go to come here and we use equals to, and we type min, min, and we find out the minimum number. So what's the minimum number here? As expected, we have what? 30. So we have another one known as maximum. So we have max, so we have equals to, and we type max. So this will give us the maximum number in a range of cells. So I close this up and I press enter. As expected, we have 600. Okay, we have 600 as the maximum number in this range of cells. Okay, so lastly, the last basic function I want to talk about here is how to use square root. Okay, so how to use square root? So we can simply use square root by typing equals to and typing sqrt sqrt. Let's say I want to find out the square root of 16, for example. We can type enter. You can see it has given us 4, so 4 times 4 will be equals to 16. Okay, so I will be working also with some advanced functions here. I'll be teaching you guys how to use some other advanced functions here. So I'll type advanced functions. I have not used a lot of data, just for those who are starting out in Excel, so that you don't get overwhelmed. So we have advanced function. Now advanced functions are quite similar to the basic functions, okay, but it has to do with some logic. So the first advanced function I want to talk about is the if advanced function. Now the if advanced function has to do with using some logic to ask certain questions. So take example, I want to compare two cells together. I want to compare two cell numbers together, for example. So I can say if, now there are three different points in the if advanced section. So the first one here, we have the logical test, value if true and value if false. So we're going to be putting the logical test here. So I'll just say if 200, which is I6, is greater than 40, which is I5. I put a comma. I would say indicate true. You can put anything you want here, that is true. And if it's false, indicate what? False. Or we can say not true. Okay, now if you notice, I put them in a quotation, so I'm able to do that also. And I close the bracket and I press enter. So you can see it has indicated that indeed 200, which is I6, is greater than I5. So if I were to correct or remove this logic, make the logic long, this is greater than, if I were to make it less than, that is 200 is less than I5, which is 40, you can see it has indicated not true. Okay, I'll just leave it as it is, greater than. So now the next advanced function I want to teach here is known as the AND function. Now what AND function does is that it compares two different conditions. Okay, two different conditions. So over here where we have one condition, okay, that is just comparing 200 if it's greater than 40, which is I6 to I5. So over here we would compare two different conditions. So I would say equals to and I would compare two different conditions. So I can say 600, and both of the conditions have to be true, is greater than 100, which is J6, and I'll put a comma. And what's the second condition? I can say 30 is less than, that is K6 is less than 90. I close this bracket and I press enter. So you can see it has indicated true. So if I were to make one of these conditions false, let's say I say 30 is greater than K6, you can see it has indicated false. So I'll just leave it as it is here to make it true. So the next advanced function I want to talk about is known as the OR function. Now the OR function, it's exactly like the AND function, but the only difference is that the OR function just need one of these conditions to be true. That means even if this one is wrong and this one is correct, it is going to indicate as true. Okay, so to use the OR function, we use equals to and we use OR, and we compare two conditions. So we can say 600 is greater than 200, okay, which is I6, and I'll just intentionally make one of the conditions wrong. So I can say 30 is also greater than 90, which is K5. I close this and I type enter. You can see it has still indicated that it is true. So even if this is also true, 30 is less than 5, you can see it also indicated this is true. But the OR function does not need the two conditions to be true. It only needs one condition to be true. Okay, so I would also show you guys how to use the concatenate, how to add two different texts together in Excel. So it's called concatenate. So it's called concatenate. So I'll increase this a little bit. Perfect. So it's called concatenate, sorry. So I'll just create I'll create two files. I'll create two texts here. I'll say tree. I'll call this house. So if we want to add these two texts, for example, into one cell, how can we do that? We can simply come here and put equals to, I will call concatenate. I will open a bracket and we click on the first cell we want to add. Okay, so let's just say we want to add 3, and we'll put a comma and we'll put a quotation. Now the space you keep between the quotation here will determine the space it would have. Okay, so if you want to say tree house and you want to keep a large space, it will indicate the space it will have between the two words you want to concatenate or you want to add. So I want to add the second one, the second cell, say house, and I'll type enter. So you can say tree house. So if I want to give a larger space, I come here and I make it greater, so you can see we have tree house. Okay, the next advanced function I want to talk about is a function known as left in Excel. So we have left. Now what does left do? Left would simply trim a certain number, some certain numbers of text. Okay, so take example, I want to bring out the first 3 letters, okay, only. Okay, I want to just bring out TRE, similar to this concatenate. What do? I use the left. So I say equals to, and I type left, and I type the bracket, I type 3, and I put a comma, and I put 3. So I put 3. So this would bring out the first 3 letters, like I've said, from the left. Okay, TRE. So it's TRE. So if I want to bring out the first 2 letters, I can say 2. So it has brought out TR. So the next one is the right, which is just the opposite of the left. Okay, so we say right. We go on the cell. Let's say I want to do this from the house, and I just want to bring the first 3 from the right. So we have been able to bring the first 3 counting from the right, which is USE, use. Okay, so there are some other formulas I want us to use here. Let's say we want to use the time and date function. Sorry, so I'll say time and date functions. So how do we use the time and date functions? It's very simple. First of all, let me just give this bigger, 20. So how do we use the time and date function? So take example, we want to find out today. Okay, we want to find out today, so the current date in a cell. So I'll just say date for, let me put this in capital letter, date for today. So as I'm recording this video, today is 11th November 2024. So I'll just use equals to, and I'll type today, and I'll put it in the bracket, and I'll type enter. So we can see it has brought out today's date, 18th November 2024. Okay, so if we want to find out the time now, okay, the time now, I can say current time. So we can use now bracket, enter. We can see it has brought out the time now, which is 5:17:12, which is about 5:12 currently now in the country where I am in. So that's how to bring out date and the current time. Okay, date and the current time. Okay, so guys, that's how to use some basic functions and formula in Excel. So I would go to another thing in Excel which we can call, I would say, error checking. So over the course of this tutorial, some errors have appeared when we fail to put certain things in order. Okay, so we have seen the ref error, we have seen the name errors and all that. So I'll show you guys how to counter these errors in Excel. Okay, so how do you counter these errors in Excel? We have to identify the errors now. Now there's this error known as the div error. So we have to appear something like this: div divided by 0. So this div error occurs when you divide a number by a blank cell, or you divide a number by 0. So I'll just divide a number by a blank cell. So take example, we want to use division, and we can say equals to, we can say 200 divided by, let's just use this blank cell here, and we type enter. So you can see a div error has appeared. Okay, so over another one, I would use a value error. Another common error in Excel is a value error. So it shows something like this. So this error occurs when there's an issue with a type of data used in the formula. Okay, so take example, you use where you're supposed to put a figure, you put a text or something of that nature. So I would just use something like this. I can use something in the addition. I can say this plus, I can now put maybe a text. For example, I can say this plus this. So it has brought out a value error because I added a number with a text, okay, or a string. So another common error is known as the ref error. So this ref error occurs when a cell reference is not valid, or often due to deleted cells or ranges. Okay, often due to deleted cells or ranges. How does this work? So take example, I put this, let's say 20. I just put a random number here, and I add this number to another cell. So I can say this cell here, 100 plus 20, that's G8. So I type enter, it gives us 120. So if I were to delete this cell, I come to the cell, I right click, and I delete this cell. What does it work? What does it mean now? We now have a ref error because the cell has been deleted. So another common error is the name error. The name error in Excel. The name error in Excel. So this occurs when Excel does not recognize the formula or function name, often due to the types like a typo error or unrecognized function. Okay, a typo error or unrecognized function. So take example, if you misspell a function, so we have something like the sum function here. So if I misspell it, so I can say equals to, instead of sum, oh sorry, let me use the block, instead of sum I use double M by mistake. So I open this and I want to sum, let's say this 3, and I close and I type enter. So you can see the name error has been occurred here. So you can correct that by simply changing that, but I'll leave it just like this since we are talking about the errors. So the last error I would I'll talk about here is the num error. Now what is the num error? Num error occurs when a formula or a function contains an invalid like a numeric value. So we used something like the square root here. So take example, I'm putting an invalid data for the square root, so I can say sqrt, and I use something like -1, and I type enter. So we would have the norm error because is actually the square root of -1. So we have the norm error. So these are very common errors in Excel. Okay, these are very common errors in Excel. So it's very important you have most of these things at your fingertips. Like I said, I will attach a cheat sheet or some of these functions to a file in the description of this video. Okay, so next thing I want to talk about is how to create a table. So I would say creating a table in Excel. So tables are very similar to the entire worksheet area we have here. They are also divided into rows and column. So we can simply insert a table by inserting a range of data source, but let's just create the data we want to use in a table. So take example, I just want to create a table that displays things like salary of employees. So I can say employee name, for example, and I can say employee salary. Okay, so this is just a simple to employee name and employee salary. So first name, I can say David. I can say, let's say $3,000 a month. I can say Sarah, $4,000 a month. Oh, let me remove this comma here. Why do we have a comma and there's no comma here? Number, general. Okay, we'll sort that out. So we have also Rex, for example. I can say $10,000 a month. We can say Chris. We can say $8,000 a month. Okay, so this is just a simple table. We can make a more complex table, but I want to make it very beginner friendly. So what can I add here again? Okay, let me just leave this too. So I want to create a table now. What do? I highlight everywhere I want to insert into the table, and I go to insert and I click on the table. So it has highlighted from B30, which is where we have here, to C34, which is where we have here, C34. Okay, so my table has headers. We can remove the header, we can keep the header. The header is simply just the topmost part of the table that indicates the table structure. So I click on OK. So we have successfully inserted a table. Okay, so like I said, table is used to display data. Okay, it's used to organize data. So I've displayed data here. So there's a difference between this data here and this other data here. Okay, this other data here has been inserted into a table, and with this we can insert things like a pie chart, we can insert things like a bar chart, we can insert other form of visualization. So I've left this table very simple to make it beginner friendly. So if we want to insert things like a pie chart or a bar chart, we simply also highlight the table and we go to insert. So we see, you go to chart, we see different forms of chart here. I think this is where we have the pie chart. So we have different types of pie chart. We have this other one, we have the 3D pie chart and all that. So I can insert this pie chart, for example, and we have inserted this pie chart. Okay, we can move it around. Sorry. Oh, Ctrl Z. We can make it a little bit smaller. So also we can insert other charts. For example, I want to insert a bar chart. Go to insert to the column. Okay. So we can move it around also. So I've successfully inserted a bar chart. Okay, and we can change the background, we can change the color. So we can change the background by using chart styles. We can make it more attractive, or we can keep it as it is. So I'll just leave it at this black. So we can insert any type of chart you want. Okay, go to insert, and we have this scattered line chart, and we have these other ones, line chart. So sorry. Okay, so I'll make it smaller. So these are the basic steps on how to visualize your Excel data, or visualize data in Excel. So this table does not contain much data, else would have been able to have more comparison. Okay, so you can insert any data you want. Okay, you can visualize, you can apply things like conditional formatting. So take example, I want to add a conditional format to this table. I can go to conditional home, go to home, I will go to conditional formatting. I can put data bars, I can put data scales, for example. I can put icon set. Okay, I can put data bars, top rows, top 10%, above average. So whichever one you want, indicators. So while starting out, you don't necessarily need to have to use everything. You only use a data, or you only insert a file or a bar chart that you are going to use. So if you want to use Excel for basic stuff, you keep it basic. If you want to use Excel for advanced stuff, you keep it advanced. Okay, so there are also ways we can insert other things like a pivot table. So now, what is a pivot table? A pivot table is very similar to a table, but it's a table that can be used to visualize more data, like a sum of salaries, or a sum of people, or a sum of other things. So how do you insert a pivot table? You highlight the table and you go to insert, and you click on pivot table. You can say from table or range, or from external data source. So this is the table we are inserting into the pivot table. We can either use and insert it into a new worksheet or existing worksheet. So we choose a new worksheet. So you can see a new worksheet has been inserted here. So you can click on the two parts of the pivot table here, columns, grand total, employee name. So we don't have much data here. So you can see here we have been able to get the sum of count of employees. So employees receiving 3,000 is one person, employee receiving 4,000 is one person, employee receiving 8,000 is one person, employee receiving 10,000 one person, and the grand total is 4 people. Okay, so that's one of the ways you can use pivot. I've decided to keep it very basic and beginner friendly, so that you'll be able to manipulate this data. Okay, so you can try out this table and take example. In this table, you want to add more rows or more columns. What do? You can highlight, let's say you want to add more columns, and you right click and you go to insert. So we can either insert the columns to the right or to the left. Okay, so I'll insert it to the right because I want to add it to the right. So we have successfully added a column. We can do the same for the row. Insert rows above, rows below. So I can choose insert rows below. So how am I doing this? I highlight the cell, or I highlight the row, and I right click and I click on what? Insert. The same thing for the columns. I highlight, I right click, and I click on what? Insert. Okay, so we can just add another column name here. I can say something like employee ID. Employee ID, and I can add another employee here. I can say Clement. I can say maybe I give myself $20,000. So employee ID, I can say 001, 002, 003, 004, 005. Now if you noticed, our 001, 002 all disappeared. Why did this disappear? There's something I've not taught, or there's something I've not indicated here. Now each of the cells can be classified into various formats. Okay, so over here it is a number format. It's even supposed to be in a currency. So if I were to change this to a currency, what do I do? Let's say I want to change this first one, I want to change it to a currency. What do? I click on the cell here and I go to this number. Okay, and what do I want to do? I want to make it a currency. So it has indicated $3,000. You can actually change the currency by coming here, and you want to change it to pounds, you can change it to pounds, and we have the two zeros there. I don't want that. I can just remove the 2 zeros or the decimal over there. Okay, so we just leave it at dollars. You can explore other currency formats. Okay, so these are all the, we have British pounds, we have the United States dollar here, we have euros, we have the Chinese yen and Swiss franc. You can explore more accounting options. You go to currency, and over here we have a whole lot of currencies, if not all the currencies in the world, or at least the major currencies. We even have the naira, and we have the Mongolian traditional currency and some others. So I'll just leave it at dollars. Okay, so aside the currency, we have different other data types here. So we have the fraction, we have the percentages. Okay, so you can explore others. So why this is not showing is because it is in the number. Okay, so a number in Excel does not really start with 0, so we can keep it in the general and decide to add our 2 zeros if we want. Okay, so I will just change the other currencies here to the US dollars, and I would remove this and I will just save this. So all our employee salary here has been changed into all our employee salary here has been changed into the US dollars. Okay, so aside inserting tables, inserting pivots and other things, okay, we can also import data into Excel. Okay, we can import data into Excel. So take example, we want to import data. Let me just create a new worksheet here, and I want to import a data. So I've downloaded an Excel file from a random source here. You can also do that and explore, and I'll just say I'll call this external data. So I'll go to insert, and I'll go to data. Got it, and I'll go to get data, and I'll say from file. You can install from database and all that, but I'll just import from file. So which of them? You can import from folder. I want to import from a workbook, an existing workbook. I click on existing workbook and I wait for it to load. So wait for it to load up, and I just go to my downloads here, and I'll just import this data. So it might take a while for it to load up depending on the data you want to import. So take example, you want to import a table from an external worksheet. So we can see we have 3 different tables here. I'll just import this table and I'll just click on load. So as we can see, a table here has been imported. Okay, a table here has been imported. So this is office supplies, etc. So we can see how big a table can get compared to what we have here. So this is just a beginner friendly table so that users don't get overwhelmed orders. So we have successfully imported this data, so we can do anything we want with it. We can visualize this data, we can insert charts, we can explore other options. Okay, so it's not so difficult. If we know the basics of Excel, we can do a whole lot of stuff. So now, how do you check errors in Excel? So take example, you have a typo error or you have other errors. So in the ribbon tab, there's this tab known as, in the ribbon section, sorry, there's this tab known as review. So when we go to review, we can check on spelling. Okay, yes, the beginning of the sheet, yes. So we can check on spelling. So now we have indicated, now this review, you're able to check on spelling, grammatical errors, punctuations, and the rest of them. So we can see that the program has suggested that we change David, which is supposed to start with capital letter, to a capital letter. So it's a small letter, now we can change it to a capital letter. So we can ignore all Davids on the sheet or on the workbook. We can change this particular David, or we can change everywhere David appears. So I'll just choose change all. The same thing with Sarah, as indicated here, I'll choose change all. The same thing with Chris, I'll choose change all. So those are the only errors the program could indicate in our worksheet. Okay, so I'll just go on and Control S. So there are other tabs here you can explore. We can insert line, we can insert some other stuffs. So we have page layout, we can explore themes in Excel. So as we're exploring the themes, you can see everything is changing. I can basically leave it this way. So we have a different theme now. Okay, it has changed to a different color. We can explore color. We can also check on the size here, size of the page. Okay, so we can say print area, select print area, we can say line breaks, we can say background, and all that. So I think by default, this orientation by default, Excel is on portrait. We can change it to landscape. So we have formulas tab, we have data, we have review, we have view, we have help, we have table design. So I think I've covered all what you need to get started in Excel. So all what you need to do is explore everything in this tutorial to at least get started in Excel. Know about rows, know about columns, know about tables, etc., and everything we have discussed. So guys, thank you so much for watching this video, and see you in the next video.